Recognize that sound? That's the sound of snoring. Welcome back to Deep in Bear Country. I'm your host, Phil Gonzalez. You heard me snoring. That's because today we're talking about snoring, the history of snoring, the history of treating snoring. Why do we snore and wherefore? Who snores? Me? Do I snore? Yes. Do you snore? Maybe. I don't know. I've never heard you sleep. What is snoring? What even is it? We think we know. We talk about snoring, but do we really understand snoring? Is it a medical thing or is it magic and myth? Let's find out. So according to the Mayo Clinic, snoring is caused by relaxed throat muscles in your sleep. Like the tissues in your throat, they relax when you sleep, you snore. It can be caused by a lot of things. One of the things people tend to associate snoring with is obstructive sleep apnea. It's not always connected to that, but the two do tend to go hand in hand. You may have obstructive sleep apnea if you find yourself like gasping for breath in the middle of the night. If you sleep with someone and they're like, you sound like you're choking or gagging, or you suddenly like gasp for air, that might be obstructive sleep apnea. You may want to get to the doctor and look at that. In fact, if you have noticed like symptoms of that, consult your doctor, because snoring, especially if it's caused by obstructive sleep apnea, you're not breathing, and that's a problem. And you're not getting good sleep, and that's a problem. Now, snoring can also be caused by things simply by the structure of your mouth or the structure of your soft palate. A thick, soft palate, an elongated uvula, extra throat, all that. Extra throat tissue, that can cause snoring. If you drink before bed, can relax your throat muscles, that can cause snoring. Just having chronic congestion or a deviated septum can cause snoring. Sleep deprivation. If you don't get a lot of sleep and you do fall asleep and you fall asleep hard, your throat relaxes, that can cause snoring. Just sleeping on your back might be enough to cause snoring. So try sleeping on your side. There's all kind of risk factors. Men are far more likely to snore than women, but being overweight can cause extra pressure on your throat. That can cause snoring. Just having a narrow airway or being someone who, again, drinks regularly, that can cause snoring. And snoring is nothing to be taken lightly, as the lack of sleep can cause all kinds of things. It can cause high blood pressure, heart disease, which can lead to a risk of stroke. Trust me, sleep deprivation and stroke go hand in hand, and we know this. Behavioral and learning problems in children. That's right. Children can snore. Children can also have OSA. So if your children are having trouble sleeping because of snoring, get them in to see a doctor. High risk of accidents, traffic accidents, just dreariness, irritability, falling asleep at the wheel. These are all problems. Snoring, take care of it. Now, how long have we known about snoring? How long has snoring been a thing? For as long as human beings have existed. The Greeks and the Romans talked about snoring. Dionysus was famous for his snoring. In fact, Dionysus might actually be linked to the first records of sleep apnea, because people like they understood when they were writing about Dionysus that he would snore, but he would also like gasp and gurgle in his sleep, and they knew that there was like a link there between like not breathing properly and snoring. This is all like, he's not a real person. Like, he was a god, but still, he drank a lot, he would fall asleep, and he would snore. People knew even back then there was a link there. In the Egyptian Ebers Papyrus, 1550 BC, they recommended using thyme to reduce snoring, like THYME. Not time, but thyme. I don't know how they recommended use it, but they're like, thyme can help snoring. And those that process, like that herbal remedy thing, continued on. People were like, I guess all we have is to go off is herbal remedies. So starting with Egypt, they were like, I guess eat some thyme, have a nice brioche. I don't know. In the 18th century, during the American War of Independence, soldiers who snored had cannonballs sewn into their uniforms to prevent back sleeping, because people were like, well, we know if you sleep on your back, you're going to snore more. So we'll sew this cannonball onto you. And that's actually a technique that people still use, not with a cannonball, but like with a device you can put in your clothes just to keep you from rolling over onto your back. In the early 20th century, there were leather masks that were designed to keep the snorer's mouth shut, which was thought to like help keep the airway right. They thought open mouths were the problem, so you would have this like leather mask. They're horrifying to look at, by the way. And you could also snore through your nose. So it didn't work if you did that. In the 1950s, they developed the first jaw-advancing oral devices, which were designed to reposition your jaw to help with airflow. They were made from metal, which you had to sleep with a metal jaw device on, which I mean, if it helped you sleep, it helped you sleep. But all going back to the 1950s, we were aware that like this is a thing that we can treat with devices. In 1980, Colin Sullivan, an Australian physician, invented the continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP machine and nasal mask, which was the first truly effective treatment for obstructive sleep apnea. By 1985, CPAPs were becoming more and more available in homes, although they were heavy and cumbersome devices. But by the end of the 20th century, snoring surgery was something that was being developed in the UK. It was a very invasive technique that involved like breaking the bones of the face and resetting them. But it was something that was coming along, and by the 2010s to today, we had developed jaw advancing devices that were custom molded and can now be 3D printed so that they are more comfortable and more effective. We have precision surgeries that can open upper airways. We have implants that can electrically stimulate the airways to prevent throat blockage they stimulate the tongue. Like there's these nerve implants they have now that are kind of like pacemakers that are approved for obstructive sleep apnea. And you use your like phone. I think there's like an app, and you like turn them on before you go to sleep, and they'll like stimulate the back of your throat. There's also genetic and neurological factors they're looking into to develop like targeted solutions for like specific genetic like descendants, so that they know exactly what is causing sleep apnea or snoring. And Joseph Wirth, researcher, suggests that snoring may have a genetic component, and they are optimistic that there could be a cure for snoring in the near future. That is the future of snoring. We are looking at glory, hallelujah, a future in which no one snores, and we live in a silent sleep world where no one ever has to push me, roll me over onto my side ever again, because that's the future of snoring. How are we looking on time? Are we done? We cover everything? Yes, I think we covered everything. But Phil, you may be wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Well, that's because this week's book is The Berenstain Bears' Too Much Noise. Too much noise. And what is snoring if not too much noise? Does snoring come into play in this book? Well, you're going to have to find out. And I guess like I can answer that question in like 1 second. The Berenstain Bears' Too Much Noise from 2021. Here we go. What is this book? What does it have to do with what I just spent 10 minutes talking to you about? Well, it's a Mike Berenstain book. It's an I Can Read book, a beginning reading level 1 book. Mama and Papa love it when it's quiet. They love getting up early in the morning and enjoying their tea and enjoying their honey and enjoying the treehouse with no one awake. It is bliss. Mike has illustrated Mama and Papa sitting at the breakfast table together. Mama is so ecstatic with the quiet and the peace in the house with no kids running around that her eyes are at half mast. They're basically rolling back in her head. She is so thrilled to not have to worry about any kind of noise. Noise. In this house, I actually love this idyllic little scene. It is a feeling that only parents know. That sort of calm before the storm, because what happens? Mama, Papa, the cubs start yelling for them from upstairs, and Papa's like, oh God. Mama and Papa gulp back their tea. You see Mama like tossing back her tea because here come the cubs. They're hungry. They want love. They want caring for. They're jumping down the stairs. They're very loud children. I know that brother and sister are not historically loud kids, but I'm sure we're seeing this like sort of through a skewed perspective. This is what it's like for parents. If any little children listen to this show or watch this show, I don't think they do, but if any of them do, this is what it's like. You think you're being quiet, but you're not. That's not how it works. You're being loud regardless of what you think. You're always being loud. So the kids come downstairs. They're yelling. They're shoving. They're bumping into each other. They're yelling. Honey's yelling for her parents' attention. Mama, Papa, they're hungry. Mama's trying to get orange juice. Hey, guess what, kids? You can get this stuff yourself. Brother, sister, you're old enough. You can go to the fridge and get your own orange juice. Papa, you don't have to serve your kids. Tell them to pour their own cereal. They're not invalids. They're not stuck in their beds, ringing a bell, like dying of the consumption. They're kids out on the table. Tell them to get their own orange juice. Stop looking so worried and just tell them to shape up or ship out, kids. That's my parenting advice for you. And then they finish eating their food and run to the den. They turn on the TV, and the TV goes blah 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 blah. This is according to Mike's writing. Blah 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 goes the TV. Blah blah. And Mama and Papa are like their blood pressure is going up. They may not have had enough sleep, so their blood pressure is already high. Their blood pressure is going up. They're this book is nuts. Like, this book just takes off out of the gate. The premise of this book so far is kids are the worst. They're loud and they're disruptive and they're noisy and everything's noise and everything's terrible. And Mama and Papa are like, And the kids have turned on the TV and it's on. I don't know what they're watching. It looks like some kind of like infomercial. It's just an adult bear with like a white collar. Like, it's just like yelling at the TV, like at the screen. I don't know what they're watching. But then sister goes to put on some music, and I love that she puts on music not by turning on the radio, not by turning on a boombox like she would have done back in the day. Just hitting a button on her laptop. I guess she's got iTunes or whatever in there. Sister puts on some music. The music's not blah, blah, blah. The music is boom, boom, boom. Goes the music. Oh, boom, boom. Mama and Papa are now not only irritated, they're terrified. They're frightened. They're clutching each other as if they were haunted by ghosts, but it's not Halloween season anymore. It is just season, and they're holding hands with their arms around each other, teeth chattering, shaking, quaking in their boots. They are so frightened of the loud noises coming from sister's boombox. I think it's absolutely an amazing picture. And then brother turns on a video game. Beep, beep, beep goes the video game. Beep, beep. He's literally playing a video game based on the Big Road Race, because it's one of the race cars from the Big Road Race. He's playing a video game. Beep, beep, beep. Mike, not like the most hip person when it comes to what video games look like. It's just a picture of a race car. I don't know how he's playing this game. It's not from like a first person perspective. The camera seems to be floating outside the front of the race car, which seems a very difficult way to play any kind of racing game. By the way, it's not how it works. It should be, if not a third person top-down perspective, it should be a first person at least. I don't understand what Mike thinks a video racing game is. Maybe this is just the opening cutscene. I don't know, but brother is holding some sort of donut control. I don't know what he's holding, actually. I think it's supposed to be a video game control, but it only has 2 buttons, and maybe they're like motion sensor pads. I don't know what Mike thinks a video game controller is, but that's what he's drawn. What I do love is how he's drawn the parents, though. He's really gone full out with just screwing their mouths up, drawing lines of agony above their heads. It's nicely watercolored imagery of this the noise in their heads. Fred Rogers once did a segment on his show where he brought out paints and an easel, and he was telling kids about painting what you feel, but painting what you hear. That's what this looks like. It looks like the Fred Rogers paint what you hear technique. All the parents are hearing right now is terrible, terrible noise. With the combined, and the sister gets on the phone. Hello? She yells over the other noise. Hello, hello, hello. Sister doesn't know how to have a conversation, but she's screaming the word hello on their rotary dial phone. I don't understand how the phone company works in Beartown, but it's a rotary dial phone. So Honey is watching the Screaming Man show. Brother is watching the Watch a Car game, and sister is talking on their rotary dial telephone. Regardless, it's so loud that Mama and Papa are holding their hands over each other's ears as their eyes roll up in their heads, their teeth grit. I assume at any moment just drool will start pouring out of their mouths as they are so overwhelmed by the noise. I don't know if I've sold this well enough. The illustrations in this book, absolutely impeccable, immaculate illustrations. We are looking at a house in chaos. This is the most chaotic this house has been in a long time. I absolutely adore the way Mike has drawn Mama and Papa, and he's going full out. This is a man who has an agenda, and his agenda is show just how god-awful kids can be and how noisy a house can get. Then Honey pulls out a doll. It's a stuffed bear doll, but it's called a Bearmo doll. Honey loves to play with her Bearmo doll. She pushes the button on the doll's back. Hee goes the doll. Hee. I assume that Bearmo is meant to be Elmo, and this is meant to be a parody of like one of those Laugh-in' Elmo dolls. Not Tickle Me Elmo. That was a 90s thing. I know that like noise-making Elmo dolls are still a thing, so this is Elmo, but he's called Bearmo, which means that in the Berenstain Bears version of Sesame Street, the monsters are just bears, which means Are they a different type of bear? Are the Sesame Street monsters in Bear World like puppets, or are they played by actors? This is not giving us any indication. Why aren't they monsters? I know monsters still exist in Berenstain Bear World, so why is Bearmo not a monster? I don't understand it. But in any case, it starts hee-hee-heeing. Mama and Papa are now sitting. They can't even stand anymore. They have no strength left in their legs. They're sitting on a bench. They have pillows over their ears. They are gritting their teeth. Their eyes probably completely rolled back in their skulls by now. We don't know because their eyes are like tightly shut. Their teeth, their jaws are clenched, probably biting their own tongues at this point. I've never seen Mama and Papa driven to this level of madness. The waves coming off of them, the waves of color, the waves of movement, the waves of agony and noise and sound. They are experiencing now like color hallucinations. This is a visual migraine that is going on in their heads. At this point, I think they might be having aneurysms. This is absolutely off the scale as far as Mama and Papa reactions. They can't even respond angrily at this point. Their senses are overwhelmed. The neurons are firing in so many different directions. I think they might be having seizures. Let's find out what happens. Oh, I know what happens. Brother pulls out a drum set, which we've never seen in the past, and starts to, quote, practice his drums, which is not a thing Brother has ever done. Pow, pow, pow go the drums. Pow, pow. Mama and Papa are now standing again. They've been driven to their feet. Mama is making a face I've never seen her make anywhere. I have never even fathomed she can make, with a cocked eye. Her eyes are now fused together into this sort of like mono eye. She has smoke and steam coming out of her ears, as does Papa. His hat is gone. There's just the waves of color. They're going to start vomiting at some point, I assume, because Brothers is banging on the drums like Stephen King's drum playing monkey. Their lives are probably going to end at this point, because I can't imagine this going anywhere but death. Like at this point, it has to end in death. But it doesn't. It ends in yelling. Quiet, yells Papa. Quiet, yells Mama. Quiet, 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 they yell together. They're screaming, hands on the side of the face. Papa holding his arms straight up in the air in a way that no human being has ever screamed before. Like not even like this, like not even arms out to the side and up in the air, but straight up like they've just shot. It's like he's trying to grab God down from heaven to assist him in quieting this noisy child that's standing before him. He is praying to any deity up above to quiet his children, please. He's begging for the sweet release of death. Just let me out of this house. Please, please, free me from the noise. The children, however, are surprised. Why are you two making so much noise? Sister wonders. And Brother's like, I'm surprised at you. And Honey crosses her arms and gives Mama a look like, and she actually just says humph, HMPH, exclamation point. And Mama and Papa are suddenly cowed. They lost their cool. They yelled, contributing to the noise. We want some quiet. Yeah, says Mama, a little quiet. And Sister's like, well, you don't have to yell. And Brother's like, yeah, you could have just asked us. And Honey's like, yeah, and that's true. They didn't let their needs be known. They just let it boil up inside until they exploded. And that's what happens. Mama and Papa quietly ask for quiet. The cubs are like, yeah, things are too noisy around here. That's what Brother says. And Sister says, it'd be nice to have a little quiet for a change. And Honey's all, nice. Which is, all that needed to be done was asked. Again, like I said up top, these are good kids. So they decided to spend some quiet time. Brother and Sister read a book together. Honey is coloring on the floor. Mama's sewing a quilt. Papa takes a nap. And I have to say that if you can agree to sit down and have a quiet afternoon, sometimes that's all you need. A little sewing, a little reading, a little napping, a little quiet time. Here's where what I was talking about up top becomes relevant. The only noise is Papa softly snoring. Ah, says the whole family. It's so quiet. That's why I talked about snoring up top, because the last page has Papa snoring. Papa's a snorer. We know that. Snoring, commonly used as a comedic joke. It's hilarious. Big man snore. Big man fall asleep. Big man snore loud. However, it could be a sign of. Could be a problem. He's snoring, sleeping, sitting up. I can't imagine what it's like when he lays down. I have a father. His birthday is in a week. I have a father who, when I was a child, I don't know what he's like now, was quite a snorer. I once shared a hotel room with him and my mom when we were going to look at my college, and I had to sleep in the bathroom because his snoring was so loud. Like it literally was the loud. It hurt my head. It was that loud. I don't know if he ever got anything done about it. He may just still snore. I don't know. He's in a good mood most of the time, so obviously it doesn't bother him much. But I have had friends who are chronic snorers and have gotten the CPAP machines, have gotten sleep apnea treatments, and it has been night and day for them. I have a friend who didn't even realize how much he snored. He lived alone, slept alone, but he knew that he was having some trouble, so he went to a sleep clinic, found out he was waking up like several times like a minute. Like he never slept. They were like, you never sleep. Like you just don't sleep. You think you're sleeping, but you're not really sleeping. He never was like hitting like those final like levels of sleep. And they hooked him up with a CPAP machine. He came into work the next day. It was like a different person. It was like I'd known him for years, and all of a sudden it was like I'd never met him before. He was in this great mood. He was like, hey, he came in, he was like, I haven't never had a good night's sleep. He had literally, since at least adolescence, never slept through the night. And that night, he actually had a full sleep cycle, several full sleep cycles. And he woke up the next morning and he's like, it was night. And he's like, he was like a different person. Sleep, and his heart got healthier because of that. And that's true. So yes, sleep is important. Snoring is important. It's important to address. It's not just an annoyance. It can be a sign of health problems, because we know that of the 8 things you have to keep track of for heart health, sleep is one of them. They don't do the whole just weight and exercise thing anymore, or cholesterol. There's 8 factors. Look it up. American Heart Association, the 8 factors of heart health. And so they include sleep as one of them. It's one of the factors. And it's a way of saying you can be off on one of them, but as long as you have the others, or I think it's as long as you have at least a certain number of them, in the green, you're okay, then you don't have to worry about the other ones as much. So it's not an either or thing these days. It's more here's the 8 things we look at. We try to keep them all good, but if a few are off, we don't worry about it so much. But sleep, so important for heart health. So important. You don't want to have a stroke in the future. You don't have to worry about heart problems. Check the sleep out. I don't get enough sleep. I need to start getting sleep. I'm tired as I'm talking right now. As far as this book goes, Berenstain Bears, Too Much Noise. This thing has some great illustrations. This thing just has some great pictures. Mike, it really... I think this is a very funny looking book. He's going full out. He's really enjoying himself. He's having a great time illustrating this one. He's having a great time telling this simple story. It's also got a good gag. The gag is effective. The kids are being noisy, so the parents yell at them and the kids are like, why are you being so noisy? That's solid kid comedy. That's solid humor. And it makes its point. It also makes the point of just let your needs be known. Even if you're a parent, let your needs be known. Ask your kids. Don't let the anger boil up until you yell at your kids. Just address the problem right then and there. You don't have to get angry at your kids for being noisy. They may not even realize they're being noisy. They may not even realize they're doing anything wrong. And that goes with other people in your life. They may not even realize they're doing something that annoys you or doing something wrong. It just might not even be in their perception. So just address it with them. Hey, I think you should be aware of this, but just in case you're not, here is the issue. And I would prefer it if it was this way. It might surprise you. People might be like, oh, you're right. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize I was being loud. I didn't realize I was being annoying. I will go out of my way right now to change that. That makes total sense. So, that's the Berenstain Bears Too Much Noise. It looks good. It's a cheap book. It's an I Can Read book. Kids will enjoy reading it. You'll enjoy looking at it. I don't know. This was a good book. It's a good introduction to the fall. It got cold for the first time yesterday. I'm recording this the day after Halloween, Day of the Dead. And yesterday, the 31st, was our first truly cold, snowy, blustery day here in Minnesota. So it was that whole oh man, you know me, I love the cold, but I'm also just this is it. This is the beginning of fall and winter in Minnesota. We've turned that corner, and we know that can be a time of stress and moody feelings and seasonal depression, to get more serious. So it's nice to start off with a book that I really liked. It's nice to start off with this is our entree into the dark season, and it's nice that it's a funny one. It's a funny one. It's a cute one. I really liked it. So that's the Berenstain Bears Too Much Noise here on Deep in Bear Country. Mama and Papa got the biggest laughs in this one, so that's good. And they shared the responsibility of being too noisy, because we know that Mama has a temper. Mama can lose her temper too. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Get your sleeping checked out. Get your snoring checked out. Get your heart checked out. go to American Heart Association. They're like the eight risk factors of stroke. I can't remember what it's called. There's like a cute little name for it. Check those out. It's worth checking out. There's like a little test you can take online that'll like show like where your risk factors are. It's important. I've done it. It's important to look at. I'm in relatively okay shape. I just had my physical, but I can always do better. I can always eat better. I can always get more exercise. I can definitely get more sleep. I can definitely get up and walk around because my back is hurting me sitting in this chair. So I am going to go walk around a little bit, take care of the old ticker. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time deep in bear country.